Good morning, everyone, and thanks to the organizing committee for inviting me here to talk about Rubin Data Preview 0 and the data previews a little bit more generally, and in particular, how they might relate to broker development. So this talk is going to be like a fairly standard DP0 overview, and then we're going to talk a little bit about broker applications at the end. So you should be sharing, you should be seeing my shared screen, and since no one has said otherwise, thank you, nice, yeah. So just to get started, it's a primer slide about the LSST and the Rubin Observatory, just in case we have any new people in our audience. So the Rubin Observatory, as most of you already know, is located in Chile. It's an 8.4 meter diameter primary mirror and a 9.6 square degree field of view camera with 6 filters, U, G, R, I, Z, and Y. And once it's complete, the Rubin Observatory will execute the Legacy Survey of Space and Time, the LSST. And it's a 10-year Southern Sky survey designed to make major advances in 4 core science areas: probing dark energy and dark matter, taking an inventory of the solar system, exploring the transient optical sky, and mapping the Milky Way. So the LSST will cover a third of the sky each night, detect billions of stars and galaxies and millions of transients, variables, and moving objects. And this altogether creates a data set of unprecedented volume and complexity. And due to that volume and complexity, it will not be possible to download the entire LSST data set, so scientists need a venue for next to the data analysis, and that venue will be the Rubin Science Platform, or the RSP for short. And it is a set of integrated web-based applications and services that will be running at the Rubin Observatory Data Access Centers, a DAC or a DAC for short. And the science platform has 3 main aspects. There's the portal aspect for exploratory analysis and visualization, where you can query catalogs in an interface that's set up for that. It has the notebook aspect, which is basically a Jupyter hub where you can write notebooks and do your data analysis next to the data. And then it has the API aspect for remote access and remote query, which will probably be the aspect that's most useful to brokers. So altogether, the RSP will include tools to query, visualize, subset, and analyze the full LSST data archives in a stable software environment that's located next to the data, along with storage space, compute resources, and remote access options. So all of that will be available. The Rubin Science Platform is a software that's still in development. And so the path to science with the Rubin Observatory along the way needs to have several data previews to sort of inform development of the RSP and to start to get users familiar with using these 3 aspects. So the first of these data previews is Data Preview 0, and it's happening this year. And the main DP0 goals are to enable the community to begin their early preparations for LSST science. And then, as I said, also to serve as an early integration test of the LSST science pipelines that process the data and the Rubin Science Platform that I just talked about. So Data Preview 0, we expect to be able to welcome up to 300 scientists and students to use the current development version of the Rubin Science Platform. This is about an order of magnitude increase over the current number of scientists using the Rubin Science Platform through Stat Club, which you may or may not have heard of before. And it's limited to 300 because the Rubin pre-operations team has still a limited ability to provide support for services that are still in development. And we need to scale up in a safe and sustainable way. So 300 sort of marks that first step up towards serving the full community. We're calling these 300 scientists and students that we'll be able to welcome with RSP accounts DP0 delegates to sort of represent their role as early testers and representatives of the community in the feedback that they provide. So DP0, 300 scientists and students, and what they'll be doing in the Rubin Science Platform is using the tools to analyze simulated LSST-like data products. And these were generated by the Dark Energy Science Collaboration, the desk, for their Data Challenge 2, for DC2. And since they were created by DESC, they primarily contain extragalactic and galactic objects, but they do have some transients and variables, although there are no moving objects, so no solar system objects. Full descriptions of the DESC's DC2 data set can be found in these two papers. And also, I'll give you some more links to explanations of the LSST-like data products at the end of this talk as well. A little bit more about the Rubin Science Platform. So these DP0 simulated images and catalogs have a format that's quite similar to the future LSST data products. However, the RSP is still in development and has limited functionality at this time. And in particular, we want to stress for all people who might end up being delegates that the portal and the API aspects are expected to evolve considerably between the version that people will see now and the version that people will use in operations. So in particular, the RSP aspects available for DP0 delegates include parts of all three aspects. So the Jupyter notebooks, the current version of the portal, and as far as APIs, the TAP service, but for catalogs only, not images. The timeline for Data Preview 0 is for people to drop in applications by the end of this month, by April 30th, and for the RSP access and the Data Preview 0 release in the RSP to be at the end of June. So you can register now at ls.st/CLO4798. Give yourself about 10 to 15 minutes to complete the form. It's mostly reading and checking selection boxes. There is no justification component. You don't need to write about what you plan to do with the data set or anything like that. It's just sort of providing your email address and some information. If our DP0 applications are oversubscribed, we'll be using a diversity-based selection process. There's no evaluation of whether we think you're gonna, be a good delegate or anything like that. We just sort of pick randomly because we want a really diverse set of early users. And also I want to note that there will be a second round of applications in early 2022. So this isn't your only chance to participate in DP0. So we hope that we're planning for there to be benefits of participating in DP0 for the delegates. As I mentioned before, that term's been adopted to reflect how DP0 participants will represent the science community as learners, testers, and providers of feedback, and how they will be able to share what they learn in DP0 with their communities as teachers and colleagues. So some of the benefits that we're planning for DP0 delegates to have is, for example, an accelerated learning experience in the Rubin Science Platform, access to support from Rubin Community Engagement Team and the data production team as they learn. So that means like we'll be providing tutorials and sessions designed to encourage people to attend and learn how to use the RSP. Delegates will be able to design and test early plans for science with the LSST-like data products, be able to share what you learn about the RSP with students and colleagues at your local institutions. You might be able to publish or publicize your DP0 related work. These are like quite realistic data sets. So if you're developing analysis tools, for example, you can demonstrate how they work on LSST-like data. And in particular, be able to advocate for RSP developments that would benefit your scientific fields. As I mentioned, the RSP is still in development. And so part of the reason why we want to have people in there using it now is to get their feedback on what aspects really need to be upgraded or changed in order to enable LSST science. And then the final benefit is being able to provide feedback about the RSP and enhance its scientific potential for everybody. So that's why we're hoping people will apply to be DP0 delegates. And as I mentioned before, if we're oversubscribed, we'll be using a diversity, basically a random selection process that prioritizes diversity and representation from across the broad astronomical community. So when you do go and apply, you'll find that most of the multi-select questions that you're asked will ask you about your scientific interests, institution type, your career stage, global location, whether you identify with any groups that are underrepresented in astronomy, whether you feel like you're a novice or an expert in terms of the use of science platforms, and any relevant expertise that you might have. So that's what's in the application form and what you're asked. And that's how we will do the selections if we end up being oversubscribed. I'll mention that right now we're not oversubscribed. So if you're on the fence and you're not sure, or if you're worried that you might take an account away from someone else or something like that, please don't worry about any of that. Just go drop in your name, put in an application, and then go from there. If you start using, you start participating in DP0 because you think you might be able to test an algorithm on something, and then it turns out that the data products just like aren't that useful for you, or if you run out of time, that's no worries. There's no like obligations to do things once you do sign up. So please don't hesitate to drop in an application. So that being said, we're not sure that DP0 is actually that useful for brokers in particular, but DP1 and DP2, the next two data previews between now and operations might be. So I just want to go into a little bit more why that might be. So DP0 is not really anticipated to be of interest to brokers, mainly because there are a few types of simulated transients and variables and no moving objects. So there are some type 1a supernovae and some variable stars, but that's about it. No AGN, no asteroids, no other types of transients. So that's one reason why. And then the other is that there's no difference image analysis data products for the DP0 data set. There's no difference images, no DIA catalogs, and no alerts. And that's true both for DP 0.1, which is happening this year, and DP 0.2, which takes all of the desk's data products from their DC2 simulation, reprocesses them with the most up-to-date LSST science pipelines, and then releases that version in March of next year. So, but neither of those will actually have any DIA. That's the current plan, is to not have any difference image analysis for either of those. Right now for DP0, the TAP service might be of interest to brokers, just as in terms of setting up your connection and just testing that you can remote query the RSP. So for DP 0.1, we wanted to point out that the TAP service is available for catalog queries, but not image retrieval. And then in DP 0.2, TAP would be available for both catalog queries and image retrieval. And also, I should mention, it's not on here, TAP table access protocol. It's a way to query data sets. So future data previews 1 and 2 should be more useful for brokers because they will be based on real data from Rubin Observatory, from ComCam or the science camera, and also because they will include DIA data products such as you've heard before, alerts, but with high latency from the data previews. The future data previews will also use a more full-featured and developed Rubin Science platform, so provide even more realistic tests of what the operations environment will be like. And also I'll mention that maybe in association with the data previews or maybe independently, Rubin does plan to provide support for broker interface testing, as I think most broker developers sort of already know that. So hopefully that gives you a picture of what DP0 is, why individuals might want to participate, where DP0 fits into the coming data previews between now and operations, and then also thank you, how brokers might be interested in participating. So this is just the final slide that I have that provides you a bunch of links of where to find out more information about DP0, how to stay informed, and how to apply. So thanks very much. I'll take your questions now.
Thank you very much, Melissa. Does anyone have questions? Because I don't see any in the chat or in the Slack.
There is a question in the Slack channel. I can read it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
By Julian.
Yeah.
So to Melissa, on slide 11, do I read the DPOX dates correctly?
Nope. Thank you. That is a typo. Yeah, DP 0.2 is March 31st, 2022 of next year. So down in the lower right corner, there's a typo. Thank you. Yeah.
So Melissa, when are the dates for DP1 and 2? Do you have any dates?
Yeah, no, there's not dates for those yet. TBD, yeah.
Okay, any other doubt? You can ask in the chat or in the Slack. And in fact, if there's someone who has not access to Slack, please let us know so we can add you. Okay, so if there are no more questions, let's thank Melissa again. And
Can I ask a question, not about DP0, but about Vera Rubin in general?
Sure.
So we just received this notification about the delay in the starting of the Vera Rubin survey mode, but can you tell us more details about this? Because for me, it's not clear whether this is for just the official science operations or is related with the commissioning. Can you give us more details?
Yeah, that's the statement that the director released, was that operations will not begin before October 2023. And by operations, that means like the operations era survey. So the actual start of the LSST would not be before October 2023. Yeah.
Thanks.
I have a question too.
go on.
So, do you know when the results of the community broker proposals may be available?
Oh, say again.
So perhaps for Lian, so the community broker proposals that were sent in December, do we know when they will be the results of this?
Oh, I actually don't know, and I think we don't have Eric with us. I think there is an answer to that question. I just don't know it.
Okay.
So if anyone else on the call knows the timeline for that.
Lian, I think Lian.
Yeah, hello everyone. The SAC are currently in the process of evaluating the broker proposals. They are almost completed. They've almost completed their task. We did set a date in the original LDM 612 document, which is plans and policies for community brokers. Some of those slipped a little bit. I will check that date and I will check with the SAC and post an answer to that on Slack. But the SLAC are a significant part of the way through their evaluation, just to give you an update.
Okay, thank you all. So let's move on.